Hey traders, Nick Shaheen here. Still a little under the weather, so excuse the voice. Walmart. I promised to look at Walmart. We've been tracking the levels. Technically, there was a squeeze right around here. Two scenarios, and the upside unfolded in spite of some pretty dicey times. And the last few candles show that there's something else in unfolding here. Now, this is not a cheap stock from a valuation perspective, price to earnings ratio, etc. This should be a boring stock, correct? But it's trading at 34 PE, which is pretty high relative to what it is and relative to all the other. It's hard to find a comp for it, so maybe I'd consider Costco. But if you look at something like, I don't know, Target is probably half as expensive. This is in line with Costco, but not exact comparables. So Costco is closer to what Walmart is, at least as far as players in the retail sector. They're both winners, both competing very well with Amazon. Arguably, Walmart recently is the one that's actually doing the best against it. They're going head to head. And, I like Walmart's odds against Amazon because A, they're focused on retail, and B, they know how to play with low margins, which is how Amazon beats its competition. So it's kind of like playing, I don't know, whatever sports you want against an enemy that does a certain kind of move, and you have that same move. So they do have levers to pull. They do have deep pockets. They do have a huge sales force human resources and capital to actually compete with Amazon at its own game. So I do like Walmart from that perspective. Now we add the technicals to it. So arguably, there's a point that says above 104 and change, it launched another leg higher. So this is what the technicals look like. This is a weekly chart. Let me see if I go to monthly. Does that? Yeah, it is about the same message that above here, it could trigger a buy to way higher than here. So this is the case where you have to plug it. Not you have to. Those who go long Walmart, you don't have to do anything. Those who go long Walmart will have to plug their nose and hope for the rally to continue in the whole market, because if it does, then Walmart should rally higher. An example of it is right here, where it was doing about the same thing, all-time high, big move, coming into a breakout zone, and then boom, look what happened thereafter. Yeah, it gave it back only to solidify the floor. So arguably, you can consider this as the actual breakout. So from a technical perspective, again, we already addressed the fundamentals. They're not that cheap, but they're a great company. They're winning at what they're doing. So here's what I see. I see this level right here where I have that one, the yellow line, a zone where all-time highs were tested and then big breakout. More recently, this zone at 80. I do believe we played one of them. I can't remember which, but we played it right for the same concept playing out again. Same thing, testing a high, recent high, or a neckline. You can draw it this way if you want. And boom, explosion above it. Interim one is here, and here we had one, and here we have one. So they're testing necklines and they're bursting above it. This will continue to happen for as long as markets in general are running. So is it an obvious entry point? No, it's not. For a lot of reasons I already mentioned. We are at all-time highs. God, this software is great, except for resetting a chart back to, maybe I don't know it, but I doubt it. Anyway, this is back to a daily Walmart chart. This is not an obvious entry point. This is a lot of froth. In fact, this is an obvious terminal, meaning a target and then some. A, this target right here, and B, one can argue this was like an ABC move, and this was the target. The good news is they made a new high under tremendous uncertainty, so that bodes well. Is this an obvious entry point? No. What ideally I want to see is this to happen in Walmart. So ideally I want to see, well, I want this. I would be a more solid buyer if this happens, and then boom. What does that mean? Because this was the most recent neckline, correct? So I would like them to test it to establish that, okay, this is actual support. This was resistance, and then they broke through it. And I'd like to see them test it as support, meaning they went up into the attic. They want to make sure that the floor, the boards below them are actually solid enough for them to climb on top of the roof above the attic. So usually these just make for weak hands. As soon as something goes wrong anywhere, sell, they'll sell it all the way back down. Fast, easy come, easy go, as they say. They ride the elevator up and the chute below, and they just jump through the window on the way down. So it is dangerous to chase it up here. I would rather see a pullback to test recent support. This is what usually happens. This was a rally similar to what we have here, some sort of an ABC move, and up here it looked fantastic. And then they came back, tested the neckline, which was ideal. So this was resistance, kind of like this point right here. They came back to test the support, which is what I'm calling for here. I'm not calling for it, but for me to buy it or go long it, I'd rather see this. Because here I can say I missed it. This was the place to take it. I missed it. I'm okay waiting for it to come back to me. And this is how it usually happens. You see a breakout, and then they have to retest the floor for support before they go higher. Let me see if I can find another instance of it. Arguably, this is another one right here on a longer time frame. Same chart. I haven't changed anything. Okay, you can argue that this was a rally, some sort of an ABC move. So up here would have been best to see them come back, because this was resistance, just like the other 2 points, to come back. This is what I want to see before I am comfortable personally taking longs. Okay, so I do like, and watch this, ABC on the way down, right, up and down. So I'm not an ABC guy, but I see them happen enough to where I pay attention to them. Fundamentally, it's expensive, but it's a great company. It's doing everything right. So if I wanted to go long at long term, I'm okay. I believe it's a winning stock if the markets are higher. Excuse me, hold on. It too should be higher. But as far as picking a perfect entry point, over the long term, it's probably not going to matter. But most people would like to get off on the right foot. And in this case, I call it too high to chase and too hot to short. If I'm long, I may trim a little bit, but it's not reason to panic out of it. I could probably sell some covered calls against it since it's running so fast, but this is the case there. Now, I have to put this in the frame of the S&P, and you've read my write-ups. I'm a proponent of higher prices and all-time highs in the S&P, in the markets. I know it's not common, but on every dip I've said, I bet we make new highs versus revisit the lows, because this December low was an abomination because of the Fed. Well, now the Fed is on the other side of the fence, so most likely without a new shoe to drop, the markets are going higher. So if this fills to its potential, it's already filled to more than short-term potentials, but the long-term, mid-term potential, I think throughout the end of the year we will make new highs into the 3,000s as far as the S&P SPX is concerned, for example, and Walmart will rise inside that. So if you share my thesis of going higher rather than falling, the fears of President Trump doing whatever in China, blah, 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 it doesn't matter. The P&Ls are still healthy. Short of a shoe to drop, we should make new highs. In that case, Walmart is still a hold as a long and would be a good entry point at any point in time here. To me, my personal taste is I'd rather see a dip that I can get into at least to come close to testing the prior neckline we just moved above. This is clearly an important spot. Fail, perfect tag and fail, 3, 4, 5 days before they burst through it. So these are my thoughts on Walmart.